Do you ever feel like you're burnt out at your job and you wish you could quit, but you can't because you have to work, because you have so many bills to pay? Overconsumption often determines how well we can live our life, and unfortunately, it often keeps us in that rat race that we live. And this only adds to our burnout. And oftentimes it becomes almost like a catch-22 situation. You wish you could quit, and often we realize it actually kind of late into the game when it's becoming almost a crisis. But at the same time, we feel stuck because we can't. We don't have control over our ability to quit because we have so many financial obligations. Let's talk today about why we overconsume sometimes and what are maybe some of the strategies to just address it. Obviously, there are many solutions. I'm just offering a few that I found helpful for myself, and I want to hear from you what strategies you took to beat the overconsumption that contributes to your burnout. Hi, I'm Yulia, and this channel is all about self-care, living well, and beating burnout. If you're interested in any of this content, please subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss any of the videos that I produce. So in modern life, there are so many reasons why it's becoming increasingly more difficult for us to not submit into this consumerism culture and not even just being part of that culture. The algorithms, the ads are becoming so much more sophisticated. It used to be much more easier in the past to be able to tell when you're being sold something, but now you won't realize it until the end of the video or end of the workshop or whatever content you are consuming. Sometimes it's so hidden. And then also in social media and other platforms or websites or just on the internet, you are being served specifically catered content to you on the ads on the side that the algorithms picked for you based on your age and gender and where you are in life and what you shopped for lately or what you were searching. So over time you start seeing things over and over again and you start believing that this is something you need, or you start seriously considering it, and these things kind of go almost unnoticed for a lot of the things. Also, if you're into fashion, look at how many trends there are. And I know it was probably always like this, but I think with the social media, it makes the industry even more aggressive in terms of ability to sell to you. And remember, the quiet luxury and clean girl trends, and every time you see a new trend, it often will provoke you to upgrade your wardrobe to something else, or your makeup, or your personal care products, home decor, and stuff like that. So it is sometimes subtle, it is sometimes not so obvious, but we do often end up being a prey for the huge marketing industry, huge amount of various goods that now could be sold to all of us just at our fingertips because we all carry smartphones. Now, even aside from that, even aside from development of technologies and algorithms and artificial intelligence and all of that, there's still fear of missing out. There's still keeping up with the Joneses. When you see, how your friends, your relatives, your colleagues, maybe your classmates are living, what purchases they are making, what types of homes they're living in, and then you start feeling like you gotta keep up. Something is wrong with you if you're living below their level of comfort or their level of luxury, so to say. And then there's also a lifestyle creep, right? The more your income grows, if it progresses a little bit, then you start upgrading your purchases. The moment you get a rise at your job, then you start thinking, okay, now I finally can afford this. So in the end of the day, your kind of life didn't really improve that much because now you spend, if you couldn't spend money on a certain type of vacation, now you just spend it on this vacation. It's not that you all of a sudden became more wealthy. That wealth is non-palpable and you don't feel the money that you add. And of course, with the growing prices on everything, don't even get me started on all of that. So certainly, and that's not even overconsumption, right? That's just trying to keep up with the inflation and the increasing cost of shipping and production and the cost of growing the foods and producing the items that you purchase every day. But overall, like, you see that there are so many things that are competing for our attention and are contributing to constant need to buy, constant need to upgrade things in our home, in our life, in our wardrobe. We are sold the idea that to feel cool, to feel great, we need to look a certain way, or we need a house or apartment that looks a certain way or in a certain area, or we need a certain car, or a lipstick that's trending, or whatever it is, or a new gadget. That is, I think, something that often kind of goes without saying. We don't really think much when we upgrade our phones and our technology, because it just seems to be something that everybody does, right? And that's what everybody talks about at work often, when there's like a new model of an iPhone and something else, and somebody bought it first, and then they share their feedback, and then, you know, next thing you want is you want that model as well. But I think part of it is that something is missing in our life, and a lot of the times we purchase things because we feel it will fulfill some void, especially in the era when we are all overburdened, overworked. There's a lot of things happening in the world, a lot of difficult events, difficult news, horrendous things happening in the world. We don't really have capacity to fully process it, or even the job stresses that we face is just too much for us. So sometimes we just reach out for that quick dopamine hit that we can get from a quick small purchase, and it's becoming even so much more easier now with the online shopping. It's just a couple of clicks and tomorrow the purchase is at the door. You don't even have to leave your house, you don't even have to carry any cash. It's all electronic, it's all seamless, and all of these technologies are evolving to make you spend your money faster and easier so that somebody else can make profit on you. But does this actually add value, fulfillment, and happiness to your life? Like, think about how many times you have bought something that actually didn't fade in terms of the amount of joy you get from it. And don't get me wrong, I have been on like spending eras in my life, and I am not a minimalist. I'm not here to preach you to become minimalists. I think everybody's different, and we're all on different spectrum of what makes us happy and brings us joy. And I personally don't really get, I wish I could get the people who are living on like bare minimum, and they have like 2 items in their wardrobe, and I don't know, they eat just eggs and spinach and bread, let's say, and that's all they eat every day, and they're happy, but they have a good amount of savings. I think there's obviously a spectrum of from overspending to spending very minimal, but what I want to talk to you about is actually becoming more intentional in your spending, and actually maybe reducing some of the mindless purchases that we're making that adding up to our burden of bills that keeps us taking extra jobs, taking extra shift at our work, picking up side gigs, picking up extra work, extra credentials, trying to take on more studies so that you can maybe climb the corporate ladder a bit more, because now you have more letters behind your name and all of that. And it's all about all this creep of spending that's never ending, and it's like a snowball just building up. There was a time in my life where I actually spent thousands of dollars on upgrading my wardrobe, and at that moment I felt like this is actually bringing me a lot of joy. It was very meaningful for me, but it did fade after about a year. And what it led to is that I had to pick up more work and more shifts, more gigs to pay for those bills and to afford that. And what maybe you don't think of right away is that the more you work, the more you make, the more taxes you pay, the higher tax bracket you get into. So in Canada, we have this gradual tax brackets that the more people make, the more taxes they pay. So when you get into the highest tax bracket, you pay like 51%. Okay, don't quote me on these numbers, because this is not a financial blog, and we're not going to get into nitty-gritty details of how taxes work in Ontario, Canada. But generally, the more you make, the more you have to give away to taxes. So in the end of the day, even if you want to make more money, and let's say you are in one of those jobs or professions where you can maybe trade a bit more of your time, like I picked up weekends, I picked up nights, I picked up work that nobody else wanted to be able to pay for things I wanted. But what I ended up paying with is my life hours. And every time I do or I consider a big purchase these days now is I try to evaluate it in how many hours do I need to work to afford this new phone, or how many hours of life do I need to work to afford this trip. And some purchases, it's actually like, it doesn't matter how much I need to work. This is something that is a necessity, let's say, right? Or sometimes it is something that is a like absolute lifelong dream, bucket list, has been a dream of your life since you can remember yourself, let's say, or since high school or something. Like, there are purchases like that are expensive, could be considered luxury by somebody else, but those are things that you maybe were planning for and maybe were saving for, and just as long as you're accountable to yourself. But if we are being really honest with ourselves, like, think about all of those little purchases you made on some of those stressful weeks. Let's say you had exam weeks. Oh, I remember certainly when I was a med student, before like the midterms, I remember how much I was craving to buy things online. And I don't know why the procrastination in my case was not only like baking cookies and cleaning up the whole place, it was also shopping for all these things that all of a sudden I felt I needed to replace in the home. Like, oh, all of a sudden I needed like a new utensil or something. It was little things because I didn't have much purchasing power. I was actually quite broke, but still, you know, if you think about small purchases we make on a daily basis, even mindlessly, they can compound into like tens of dollars or hundreds or thousands even for some people over months and years. So they also play into that dopamine hit, and they give us that instant pleasure of, wow, like you're getting something, but then you get it at your doorstep delivered, and then you don't think about it too much. It becomes part of your clutter, so to say. So on the other hand, there are actually a few things that probably can make you happy. Like maybe nothing physical or no product can really truly make us happy, because happiness is a state that only you can arrive to or achieve to internally, and it's not something material that gets you there. Although if you are of different opinion, please let me know in the comments. I'm happy to consider other opinions, but at least it's in my own experience. Like, I found that I have been able to evoke the feelings of happiness when I practice gratitude and I think about all the good people that I met in my life, or I'm thankful for a rewarding patient interaction that happened that day, or feeling how I was able to help somebody and it was meaningful. So those things are things that can bring you true happiness. But also remember that we're not meant to be happy all the time, every day. We are created to have all the spectrum of emotions, from being miserable at times and sad and anxious, to being sometimes happy, or we sometimes have to go through struggles in order to be able to appreciate the luxuries of life, so to say, but also the pleasantry, the joys and the pleasant things in life. So I think there's also part of the social media and part of the marketing is also creating that false idea that there are these people that have perfect life and they look great, they feel great, their job is amazing, their family life is amazing, they have perfect friends, they go on perfect travels, and they're always happy. There's nothing, they never struggle, and because we go through all of these miseries, something must be wrong with us. We're somehow feeling like we're losers, so we have to keep purchasing things to kind of look like them and feel, so therefore we will feel like them. Okay, if I really think, and being very, very honest with myself and with you guys, that the only maybe material purchase that really made me happy and lasted for like a long time happiness was purchase of our first car. And now it's a beaten off car. We bought our first car 12 years ago, and it was a used Honda Civic. And that was such a happy purchase because we didn't have to stand on cold winter bus stops. Where we live, like the commute is not as convenient. We don't live like downtown Toronto where you can walk to places or take subway, or there's a lot of short bus stops. If you live more in the GTA area, then the commute becomes a bit more cumbersome, and it's very cold in winters here. So the jump from being a public transit user to actually having a private vehicle added so much comfort to us. And that was like a happiness moment, and for a long time we were able to enjoy it. Other things that spark joy is maybe like a good coffee maker or a good quality blender that helps me make like a very nourishing smoothie for work, or a cup of coffee that I could sip with my husband while we were chatting in the morning about how we plan our days and wishing each other a good day. But honestly, a lot of things that we fill our houses with is kind of becoming a clutter, and we tried as much as possible not to submit to the never-ending upgrade trend. And for example, we still have the TV that we bought when we just moved to Canada, which is now 14 years ago. But I know a lot of people actually upgrade their TVs every 1 or 2 years. There's nothing wrong with their TV, it still works, but they just want to have the newest resolution, I don't know, the biggest size, the better image quality, better sound quality, and so on. And I'm not here to judge, and I'm not here to say, you know what, this is wrong, because if TV is something that brings you joy every day and you just enjoy spending, let's say, half an hour before bed on your couch, having a beautiful quality image of your favorite show or some sort of Discovery Channel views of nature, and that helps you live your life better, then maybe it is a purchase that contributes to your happiness. It's all very individual, and as long as it's intentional and it aligns with your values, not just the trends, not just trying to keep it up with others, I think this could be a justifiable purchase. I think a lot of us, for example, myself, I had to live on minimalism style for a really long time, not by choice. I was a broke immigrant, and then I was a broke med student and resident, and even when I graduated, I mean, I still have the debt, but I think when you are financially screwed for so many years, you start having the crave to like, okay, I really want to own, I don't know, like a better phone or have this type of vacation. And then you see your colleagues having like luxury cars and stuff like that, but you don't know what's happening behind the closed doors. Actually, statistics shows that more than 50% of Americans who earn more than $100,000 a year actually live paycheck to paycheck. So people who might appear wealthy to you on the outside and might have, you know, a really like wonderful mansion or luxury cars, they actually might be broke. So never judge the amount of wealth by the facade. The true wealth, I think, is actually health and relationships. And this is what I will be preaching on this channel about. It's about your own personal growth, you growing the wealth of your own assets, which are always your health, your longevity, your education, your knowledge, and your relationships, the people that surround you, your relationships with them, but also your relationships with yourself. This is the strongest foundation. And I'm not saying that, you know, money don't matter or they can't buy happiness, because I've lived in poverty before coming to Canada, and I certainly know what it means to not have money. And I never want to go back there, but there is a certain amount of money that can sort of, the more you make, it doesn't always linearly adds to your happiness. So aiming for the highest income possible oftentimes will trigger the trade-offs in your personal well-being, in your sanity, in your relationships. So it always have to be considered and taken into account. And there's even like this story about a wealthy man who was dying, and on his deathbed, you know, he said, I wish I spent more time with my daughters. Like, I'm probably saying it wrong, but basically nobody ever said on their deathbed that I wish I worked more. right? Nobody ever said that I wish I made more money. It's more about I wish I spent more time with my family, and I wish I had better quality of life, right? And I see that in the hospital a lot, when even people who accumulated good amount of wealth, but unfortunately don't have good health by the time they can enjoy their wealth, then they can't even enjoy those money because they can't walk, they can't travel, they need oxygen, or they need certain equipment or supports. It's just a different perspective, and I think because I see the end of life so much, I want to spread the message to the world that, guys, we don't think about our life down the road and 20, 30 years from now, or even 50 years from now. But trust me, if I could tell you what my patients would have wanted to tell to themselves when they were younger, it would almost always be, value your family, value your relationships. Some of the happiest people I've met were the people who were not the richest, and not the people who had the most amount of property or luxury things or trendy things. So enough of philosophy. Okay, so today I wanted to talk about just a couple of strategies to start you thinking on overspending and maybe just reviewing critically your purchases. Even if you don't think you're overspending, there's probably always something that could be further optimized in all of our purchases and our budgets. One thing is actually just becoming more intentional in how you spend your very hard-earned money and evaluating how many hours do I need to work to buy this? Does this really add that much joy and pleasure? How much time will I enjoy this item? Is this something that is only trendy for this summer, and next summer I will have to buy a new piece of wardrobe or a new car, something like something, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Just think about it when you are about to make a big purchase, or not even big. Next is evaluating, will it matter if I don't buy this in 5 years? Will I regret that I didn't purchase this? Even a year from now, 5 years from now, will I ever miss not buying certain things? And a lot of the times it's no. Like, I've missed out on quite a few new iPhone models, and I don't think I ever regret it. I use my phone until it actually is pretty barely alive, and then I really absolutely have to replace it. I'm not saying this is what you should do. I'm just saying, giving you an example of how it worked for me. You can let me know in the comments below how you see it. And then finally, if burnout is something that you have experienced and financial insecurity or financial fears are feeding into it, look into some research. What are some of the ways of how you can, learn to budget, or how can you start saving money and investing? And there's so much information. There's a wealth of information on the internet. There's books, there's courses, there's coaches, there's financial advisors and financial coaches. There are even now financial therapists who help you identify your own money story and your relationships with money, and how does this work in your couple, because your financial story could be different from your spouse, and then it could be a source of constant conflict or a source of constant leak in your budget. So there are so many things to look into that can help you begin your journey of spending maybe less. I'm not preaching minimalism, living on the minimum, although I do think it's great if you can do that, but spending less, consuming less, and perhaps instead creating more. So focusing on things that you can create instead of consume. Creating, some people enjoy drawing, some people enjoy growing vegetables, some people enjoy creating communities, right? There's so many things we can create instead of consume. And those things often will fill your bucket so much more than any material goods, and they will help you also beat the burnout. Let me know, guys, if this was helpful. I hope this was interesting for you to listen to and you picked up a couple of interesting strategies or thoughts. Remember, things you do every day will compound over days, weekends, months, and years, and will determine the quality of your life decades from now. Thank you so much for watching. May you be well, and I'll see you in the next video.